Hi there, just a quick video to give you an update on searching for private person references on the interwebs. And I had somebody do some posting, commenting on the website, and they were from the U.S. asking me about private person. And I thought, geez, I really didn't do a lot of searching for private person in U.S. law and the distinction between a private person and what is usually referred to as a sovereign down in the States. So I decided to go and do some looking, and I've done this over the last few years. Just put private person into Google, and of course you get these different results. And private person website used to be listed number 1 or number 2 for a long time, and now all of a sudden I noticed about 2-3 months ago it's off the first page, and it does have one item showing up on the second page, which is the YouTube intro. And it's pretty well gone to some of the back pages, and Google does redo things. So this is page 4 it's on now. These used to be on page 1. So I know that they change their algorithms and so on from time to time, and it'll work its way back up. This was actually on, I think, page 8 about a week ago. And we'll look for a private person to move back up to the top of Google. Or maybe Google's trying to bury it, don't know, but we'll see. So anyways, typing private person in, you come up with various things. Most of them are not legal references, so it's just interesting seeing what's there. You can also do natural person, then of course everything changes in terms of the results. And you can see some natural person websites coming up here. So looking in the U.S. specifically. Now if you want to search a particular website, I actually did a general web search for U.S. law, found a couple of websites, and this is one of the sites that came up was irs.gov. And this is a way to search a specific website, so you're not going all over the world with your search. You're just saying, I want to search this one website for this one term. And if you're using a single word, you need to use quotes. If you're using multiple words and you want those multiple words to be exactly found, then it will find only the references to this. If you don't use the quotes, it'll find the word natural and person on the same page, but not necessarily together, and you don't necessarily want that. So you can see that natural person is found a lot of times in the Internal Revenue Service website, on PDFs and on web pages and so on. So natural person is a term that is used a lot within the IRS documentation. Now if you actually change it to private person, poof, guess what? Private person also shows up inside of the IRS documentation a lot of times. But the interesting thing is that most of the references are towards benefits to a private person, in terms of if you're working for the benefit of a private person versus something else. And so there's some interesting things for you Americans to look at with regards to that. And also came up with this particular site when I did my general search. This is city of Binghamton, New York. And it says use of public property by private persons. And you'll see that private persons, if you want to find on a page, if you just hit Command F, this little find box will show up on a Mac. I assume it's a similar type of key to use on a Windows type computer. But you can find all the references to whatever phrase or word you're looking for. So private person is used a number of times in this one act here. No expansion of the use of public property by private persons beyond what is currently permitted by the code included in this chapter will be permitted without consent to City Council, which seems reasonable because we're talking about public property here. A private person doesn't necessarily have the capacity to change the private or the public property issues. So you can find it multiple times. Here's the IRS, actually on the IRS website, doing a search for private person, and you can see that there's all sorts of things that came up, and some of those documents are the U.S. tax treaties is one of the places where private person came up. And if you actually go through the website here, you'll find the reference. There's the first one to private person, and it's in reference to Commonwealth of Independent States. And it's an exemption issue, mainly for the benefit of the private person. So again, there's some separation between the private person and other capacities, or other statuses, excuse me. Here's same manual. If we do a search for it, private person comes up a couple of times. Any research I perform will be undertaken in the public interest and not primarily for the benefit of any private person or persons. Now there's a distinction, of course, between private person and the word persons. So they're putting those in there, and there's one more reference in this document as well for Commonwealth of Independent States again. So instructions for Form W8 Exp. And if you find private person in here, you notice it's within the definitions section. Where is it? There it is. We're in the definitions section of this particular document. And it gives you the definition of foreign government, and that's where you find the first reference to private person, with no portion of its income benefiting a private person. So again, there's some sort of separation with the private person. You statute fiends can have a look at that and figure out what it all means. And this is an instruction manual with regards to the same document, and it's basically the same thing, the same quotes, quoting private person. And here's a Department of Treasury document. It's a PDF off of the IRS website, and we do a search for it. Inurement of the benefit of private persons. So again, there's something about benefit of any private person being a distinction separate from other things. Here's a Montana Code, annotated version. Arrest by private person. And when you actually search for this, there's many codes across the United States that deal with arrests by private persons as being a specific issue. We'll enlarge that up. A private person may arrest another when there is probable cause to believe that the person is committing or has committed. It goes from private person to the term person. There's a distinction there again. Could be anybody. The private person may use reasonable force to detain the arrested person. A private person making an arrest shall immediately notify the nearest available law enforcement agency or peace officer and give custody of the person arrested to the officer or agencies. Now think about this. If you've got a private person, that's more related to common law, which is a peace officer. And when you're talking about some other type of a person, you're talking about a law enforcement agency. So there's a distinction in terms of who gets delivered to who based on what type of person is being arrested. And again, it's a distinction of your awareness as to which person you are in law. And this is a codified example of the common law duty to maintain the peace. By when you see somebody breaking the peace, you have an obligation to report it or intervene in order to prevent that breaking of the peace to continue. So this is your codified version of the common law to actually protect you in the process of making an arrest in order to do your job to help keep the peace. And this is a search tool within the Montana website. You can see that here's the link up top, and search for the term private person in it. And if we put quotation marks around it, it will remove all of the things that it found where private person is not found together. And you'll see all the different places that private person shows up. Arrest by private person, there it is. Contract with a private person, over and over and over, private person is being used. And if you actually go and do natural person, you'll find that natural person is also in use, and they're for different statutes. Now, why would they use private person in one place and natural person in another place? So again, there's a distinction and a reason why, something for you to do some research on and consider. And here's using that little trick to search a particular website for the term private person, and it can be listed this particular way. And again, all you have to do is change the search term, and it will find the item that you're looking for there. Alright, so again, there's a clear distinction in the laws between natural person and private person, where they're used, how they're used, and why they're used. So here's a Montana legislature 1999. It's a House bill. Don't know if it passed or not, but you'll find that private person is used throughout the document. Fines to private persons or entities. See, private persons are not entities. All these people who are afraid of the word person being a artificial entity at all times, they're making a distinction here. There's a difference. This is a man in common law versus every other form of legal artificial person. That's my interpretation of it. I'll leave that up to you to decide whether or not and how much you pursue it. Here's another website. This is with regards to a constitutional defense. It's an educational aspect of a particular university. And understanding defamation. The good name of an individual is obviously one of the things that is held in the highest esteem by the law and one of your rights to be protected. So who's considered a private person in a libel suit? Now the distinction here, and some people will cough and choke about the idea, well, we're not talking about private persons in law, we're talking about private persons as in versus media type persons and so on. Well, yes and no. There's two distinctions of a public person. One is a public official and the other is a public figure. And so this case, or this page with the case that's linked to it, makes the distinction between a public official and a public figure. And if anything other than a private person is considered a public official of some form, and you'll remember many of the acts deal with commerciality and dealing with performing a function of government, etc., which would put you in the public realm, which would make you a public official of some nature, or deemed to be for the purposes of whatever office you are deemed to be exercising. So we'll ignore the public figure issue for now and just look at the public official aspect of this. So there's a quote down here at the bottom with regards to a law. All right, this lawyer was, his name was dragged through the mud, and he took it to court and so on. He was practicing his profession and acting in the capacity of a private person, the court held. So again, there is this distinction whether you're performing a public office and what protections and responsibilities come with it versus whether you're acting in your private status and what protections and responsibilities come with it. So there's information here. It's on this page here for you to look at, and if you go onto this link here, this is the actual citation of the case that is being looked at. And you'll find that it's about the whole idea of protecting your name and the process of defamation and so on. But it deals with the distinction between your private status and an official status, and at what point does somebody cross the line, and how do you actually go through the process of suing for defamation if you're a private person and your name's been dragged through the mud. So just a quick research tip there, and some information on the fact that private person is here, there, and everywhere in American law as well.